identify what specifically don't you like. What specifically is the so-called experience that you're unhappy with? And I can't tell you for sure what it is, but probably, like I said, for most people, I would be willing to guess that it comes down to a feeling. There's probably some feeling that you don't like. Different people function differently, so it's possible that it might be something other than a feeling for you. For some people, you might really just object to the particular image or the particular sounds or whatever, but probably the objection itself is a feeling. For I'd be willing to bet. So you might just notice the feeling or whatever else you perceive as the problem. And then in your imagination, just back it up one step, really slowly. Just what's the thing that happened just before that? Just before whatever the problem is, whatever you're unhappy with. So if it's a feeling, then notice that the feeling was not always there, right? So the feeling came about, and prior to the feeling, just before that, there was something else that happened. What was that? And if what you're aware of is something external, that's okay. So you might say, well, I was fine. Like the problem is I'm feeling frustrated or I'm feeling angry, and what happened just before that was my spouse said something to me. So, okay, fine. But slow it down even more and notice there's something in between. If what you come up with is something external that happened just before, then notice what happened between the external thing and the appearance of what you're unhappy with, the internal thing you're unhappy with. And when you slow it down, you'll notice that there's an internal process that occurs. It might just be one step, it might be two steps, it might be three steps, it might be four steps, but there's something internal that occurs. So there might be external cues, triggers, but none of those things are actually the problem. I know that might seem crazy, but actually just pay attention and you'll see it's true because the external things, you're not experiencing external things. So and you can't experience a problem outside of yourself. If you experience a problem, you experience it inside yourself. So what you're experiencing is not something outside. The problem is something inside. And so, yes, of course, there could be external triggers or cues, but that's not the problem itself. The problem is an internal process that might have been triggered by something external. So when you slow it down, you'll notice the process. So there's going to be some kind, like maybe if you really pay attention, you'll notice there may be sounds in the form of thoughts, like an internal voice that says something. And if you really, really slow it down, you'll probably notice there's also images. You're flashing on things from the past because you couldn't possibly have a problem without the past. So you're always dragging the past into it. Usually you're just not aware of it. And you don't even necessarily have to become aware at a really deep level. You just have to become aware just enough of the process so that you can actually produce a change. So just notice what you can notice. Maybe you flash some images on a mental screen. Maybe you hear some sounds in the form of maybe some words. Like there might be a thought that says, this shouldn't happen, or it's not fair, or they don't care about me, or whatever I have no idea. It's going to be highly dependent on your whatever the specific processes that you use, but just I'm proposing some possibilities. Just notice that process is exactly how you produce the experience. So the experience doesn't just come out of nowhere. The experience is the result of a process, and that process is internal. And when you become aware of it with the prompt of this question, what specifically did I do to create this experience? Then you can change it. You can't change it if you're not aware of it. Not entirely accurate, but it's much easier to change it if you're aware of it. or in some respects, it's easier. For most of us, that's usually the easiest way. It's the most accessible way. So becoming aware of the internal process is really useful, very powerful, and it's totally available to you. It's not hidden. It's just that you have to ask the question and then you have to be sincere and slow down so that you can notice the answer. And if the answer that you come up with is, I can't get an answer, it's hidden from me, don't settle for that. Just slow it down. I promise you, you can become aware.